Battle of the Sexes rivals have mixed fortunes in Brisbane. Brisbane, Australia, AFP. Battle of the Sexes, opponents Aryna Sabalenka and Nick Kyrgios had markedly different starts to their seasons at the Brisbane International on Tuesday. While Sabalenka said the much-maligned exhibition had paid dividends in a straight-sets demolition of Kristina Buxa, Kyrgios's comeback faltered at the first hurdle as he lost to American Alexander Kovacevic 6-3, 6-4. Sabalenka, the world number 1, took just 48 minutes to dispose of Buxa 6-0, 6-1 in the second round of the season-opening tournament. The ease of the win against the world number 50 will send a warning to the Belarusian's rivals ahead of the Australian Open starting January 18th. She raced through the first set in just 22 minutes and took only 26 minutes to claim the second against an opponent who had no answer to the power of the 27-year-old. Sabalenka said the fact that she played so well in her first match of the season showed that the December 28th exhibition in Dubai against the mercurial but controversial Kyrgios had been worthwhile. "I mean, when you play against a guy, the intensity is completely different," she said. "Especially when there is Nick, who is drop-shotting every other shot, so you move a lot, so there was a great fitness for me. And today I was like, phew, let's move around, you know." Kyrgios is making a tentative comeback to the sport after an injury-ravaged 3 years saw him slip to 671 in the world. In his first tour-level match since March, the former Wimbledon finalist showed glimpses of his talent but lacked consistency against the solid Kovacevic. "I feel good and I'm going to be able to try and use it as a building block," Kyrgios said. "That's my goal obviously, and not just Australian Open, but this year, for whatever this year holds. I do want to continue to play as much as I can, and we'll see." Sabalenka will now play either Yelena Ostapenko or Sorana Cîrstea in the third round and remains on track to meet Madison Keys in the quarterfinals in a rematch of last year's Australian Open final, won by the American. Keys reached the Brisbane third round with a 6-4, 6-3 win over fellow American Macartney Kessler. Like Sabalenka, Keys had a bye into the second round and said she had found it tough to find her rhythm early on. "I think it's sometimes a little bit harder when the person you're playing has already played a match, and then you're kind of trying to still knock off a bit of the rust," she said. "I felt like it took a little bit just to find my rhythm, but I feel like once I did it, I kind of settled in a little bit better." There was carnage among the men's seeds with second seed Alejandro Davidovich Fokina, Tommy Paul, 4, and Denis Shapovalov, 5, all losing. Battle lines in Brisbane, mixed fortunes after the battle of the sexes. There are moments in sport that transcend the usual metrics of victory and defeat, moments that become cultural markers, tokens of conversation and occasionally, controversy. In late December 2025, the tennis world witnessed one such spectacle, an exhibition dubbed the Battle of the Sexes, where Nick Kyrgios, the mercurial Australian whose brilliance on court is matched only by his unpredictable persona, took on Aryna Sabalenka, the Belarusian force reigning at the pinnacle of women's tennis. The result, Kyrgios winning in straight sets, sent headlines around the world and set the tone for the new season. What followed at the Brisbane International, however, revealed mixed fortunes for these two intertwined protagonists, casting light on their individual ambitions, inner battles, and the evolving narratives of contemporary tennis. Sky News +1. A clash that shocked, but also energized. At the heart of this story lies that match in Dubai, a much-publicized exhibition victory for Kyrgios, where he overcame Sabalenka under altered rules designed to balance physical differences, one serve each and a slightly smaller court for Sabalenka. Critics scoffed, purists shook their heads, yet fans talked. Kyrgios, once ranked as high as number 7 on the ATP Tour, had not played much competitive tennis due to injuries but still used his raw talent to secure bragging rights. Sabalenka, a 4-time Grand Slam champion and world number 1, embraced the challenge, displaying both professional pride and an entertainer's spirit. Sky News. The match was framed, in some quarters, as symbolic, harking back to the legendary 1973 Battle of the Sexes between Billie Jean King and Bobby Riggs, which was as much a cultural statement as a tennis contest. Yet, as many observers noted, this modern iteration lacked the same stakes and context, instead stirring debate about its relevance and value in 2025. Yahoo Sports. For both Kyrgios and Sabalenka, the event became a springboard, not just for headlines but for self-belief and a renewed focus on the competitive season that loomed ahead. Sabalenka's Brisbane redemption. Arriving in Brisbane, Sabalenka carried a unique blend of motivations: to prepare for the Australian Open, to silence skeptics who panned the exhibition, and perhaps most personally, to prove that her defeat to Kyrgios was not a defining moment but a detour. And she delivered emphatically. On a bright Australian summer day, Sabalenka stepped onto the Brisbane International Court with a steely focus that contrasted sharply with the light-hearted spectacle of Dubai. In a commanding display, she crushed her opponent 6-0, 6-1, a statement victory that signaled her seriousness and resilience. It was one of the most dominant performances of her season so far, a demonstration of physical preparedness and tactical excellence. RTL Today. After the match, Sabalenka cited her battle of the sexes experience as beneficial, a match that may have been criticized by traditionalists but ultimately helped sharpen her edge. She spoke not with bitterness about her loss in Dubai, but with gratitude for the competitive challenge, framing it as an investment in her preparation. For Sabalenka, Brisbane wasn't just another tournament. It was an opportunity to show that she could channel spectacle into substance. RTL Today. Her win did exactly that. The depth of her ground strokes, the power of her serves, and the clarity of her strategic decisions illustrated a champion firing on all cylinders. In her ruthless dismantling of Kristina Buxa, she reminded the tennis world that her legacy was built on consistency, dominance in big matches, and an unshakable confidence that no single loss, exhibition or otherwise, could undermine. RTL Today. The crowd roared, not for another gimmick, but for pure, uncompromised excellence. In Brisbane, Sabalenka was not a novelty act or a narrative figure. She was a contender, and a formidable one.